Can you imagine a real-life prophet in the form of a manga artist? The buzz is growing. A super earthquake and tsunami are predicted to hit Japan in July 2025. This isn't just a random prediction. It comes from a Japanese manga artist whose past works have seemingly come true. She's accurately predicted 15 events, from the death of Queen frontman Freddie Mercury to Princess Diana's tragic passing. Her most uncanny prediction was the precise foretelling of the 2011 Great Japan earthquake. Today, we'll explore this prophetic manga and ask, will the July 2025 prediction really happen? The author of this manga is a woman named Ryuu Tatsuki. She's not a spiritual medium. At 17, after a traffic accident, she stumbled upon a manga beginner's book during her recovery. From then on, she began creating her own manga. While she learned the art of drawing, she struggled with plot development. As a result, her first 9 manga didn't make much of a splash in the market, and her inspiration began to wane. She was even preparing her final work. However, Ryuu Tatsuki had a lifelong habit of recording her dreams. From 1985, she started meticulously documenting what happened in her dreams. In 1999, she published What I Saw in the Future. The cover of this book explicitly stated several prophecies. Initially, like her previous works, this manga went largely unnoticed, and the publisher didn't print many copies, leading it to quickly go out of print. Then, on March 11, 2011, a magnitude 9.0 earthquake struck Japan, triggering a massive 40-meter-high tsunami. It caused unprecedented disaster, affecting the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant and leading to a nuclear meltdown. An estimated 19,752 people died. It was then that someone discovered the What I Saw in the Future manga, published over a decade earlier. On its cover, clearly printed, were the words Great Disaster, March 2011. This immediately garnered immense attention. Many people wanted to study the book's other prophecies, but it was already out of print and impossible to buy. At the time, copies of the book were being sold on second-hand websites for exorbitant prices, soaring to as much as 100,000 yen, about $640 today. What else did this prophetic manga foretell? So, what else did this legendary manga predict? The Cave and the Newspaper, 1989. On August 27, 1989, she dreamed of a cave next to a person whose face was unclear. She felt it was significant and took a photo of the cave. The very next day, the newspaper published a news story about a murder that occurred near that exact cave. At the time, she didn't understand the connection, but later realized her dreams sometimes provided fragmented information that only made sense when reality caught up. Freddie Mercury's death, 1991 and 1990. She dreamed of the news of Queen frontman Freddie Mercury dying from a pandemic. 10 years later, she had another dream where she was watching a Queen concert on TV, but Freddie didn't appear. 5 years after that, in November 1991, Freddie Mercury died from AIDS-induced pneumonia. The first dream about his death had a 15-year gap before it materialized. Princess Diana's death, 1997, 5 years after her second Freddie Mercury dream. On August 31, 1997, Princess Diana tragically died in a car accident in Paris, France. This dream also followed her 5-year rule, meaning a dream might materialize 5 years after it occurs. Ryuu Tatsuki's name became incredibly famous in Japan. However, after 1999, she faded from the public eye and rarely used the internet, completely unaware of her viral fame. The return and the July 2025 prophecy. In 2021, realizing her prophecies had been discussed online, she took her old manga manuscripts and original dream diaries to a publisher, Kodansha. She wanted to supplement the 1999 What I Saw in the Future with new insights and release a complete, updated version. After verifying the authenticity of her dream diaries and manuscripts, Kodansha partnered with Ryuu Tatsuki. 22 years later, she secured a major contract and completed the final version of the book. In October 2021, What I Saw in the Future, Complete Edition, was officially published. In it, Ryuu Tatsuki clarified that the great disaster she saw in her dreams wasn't the 2011 Tohoku earthquake, but rather a catastrophic event that she believes will happen this year, in July 2025. She recorded a dream within a dream related to this. In her dream, she was actually still dreaming. She walked out of her house into a dense fog and saw a human-shaped overpass. After crossing it, Ryuu Tatsuki saw 3 ships docked by the coast. Then, she woke up, startled, at 4:18 a.m. She notes the date of the event in her dream was July 5th. Why did she initially write March 2011 on the cover of her first book? She explained that she had to submit the cover design the day before the final manuscript deadline for What I Saw in the Future. In her dream, she was wearing short sleeves, but March in Japan is quite cold. Furthermore, the tsunami she saw in her dream was far larger than the 311 tsunami, so powerful that it submerged a quarter of Japan's landmass. Her visions of disaster didn't stop there. She also saw a new landmass suddenly rising from the seabed, which she called a new continent. Ryuu Tatsuki also said she saw 2 dragon-shaped shadows in the eastern Pacific Ocean before waking up at 4:18 a.m. She's seen this specific disaster repeatedly. So, how likely is Ryuu Tatsuki's July 2025 prediction to come true? Asteroid impact? A disaster of this scale could be caused by a large asteroid impact. Recently, Chile's asteroid impact warning system observed an asteroid designated 2024 YR4, which might impact Earth in 2034. However, the probability of 2024 YR4 hitting Earth has already dropped to 0.001%, which is practically zero. Currently, none of the 1,000 near-Earth objects observed by major space agencies pose a threat. So an asteroid impact in July 2025 is highly unlikely. Major earthquake and tsunami? The second condition is a major earthquake. If we look at areas that have experienced earthquakes above magnitude 4 worldwide, there have only been 5 such events recently. Earthquakes capable of causing tsunamis typically need to be at least magnitude 6.5. Japan is in an active seismic zone. Historically, Japanese records show that an earthquake of magnitude 8 or higher occurs here every 100 to 150 years. Japanese geologists predict that as of March 29, 2025, there's a 70% chance of a major earthquake, magnitude 7 or higher, occurring in the Nankai Trough within the next 30 years. So, an earthquake causing a tsunami here has a certain probability. New landmass. However, Ryuu Tatsuki's dream also mentioned a new landmass suddenly rising from the seabed. The formation of new continents or large landmasses due to plate tectonics typically takes hundreds of thousands, even millions of years. Historically, no large landmass has ever suddenly risen from the seabed. From a scientific perspective, this is highly unlikely to happen randomly. Abyssal volcano? Interestingly, in 2019, a Filipino geophysicist, Jenny, discovered a colossal abyssal volcano caldera called Apalaki Caldera off the coast of Luzon Island in the Philippines. For comparison, the Yellowstone supervolcano caldera is only about 60 kilometers in diameter, while this abyssal volcano is nearly 2.5 times larger. If this abyssal volcano were to erupt, the resulting tsunami is estimated to be 1,000 meters high, affecting not just Japan but a much wider area. Could Ryuu Tatsuki's prophetic dream be referring to this abyssal volcano? Current status. Thankfully, I've checked on this volcano, and there's no indication of an imminent eruption. Ryuu Tatsuki's dreams that reportedly came true were all events that occurred before 1999, when What I Saw in the Future was first published. What she describes in her manga is, ultimately, her own interpretation. While there are many scientifically unexplainable phenomena in the world, the scientific evidence does not support a catastrophic event of the scale she describes occurring in July 2025. However, Ryuu Tatsuki herself wrote at the end of her manga, "If the day I dreamed of becomes a reality, then the date of the next great disaster is July 5th, 2025. I hope this serves as an opportunity for mental preparation." Now, we are only about 2 months away from this predicted date. What will happen on that day? Ryuu Tatsuki also mentioned that if this disaster were to occur, Japan would eventually move in a good direction, and the world after the disaster would be full of vitality. Regardless, having a heightened awareness of disaster preparedness is always a good thing, especially if you're in Japan, which is located in a highly active seismic zone. For everything else, we'll wait for July 5th.